Please like and subscribe. Chapter 21, I am not a doctor. If someone could look inside the house of the clan head of the Hyuga clan right now, they will be surprised to see a servant begging a kid with teary eyes while saying, "Kid, you better save Himawari-sama, otherwise we will both suffer from Hayashi-sama's wrath." Hey, I didn't force you to tell him, right? We just made a simple deal. Don't stick your fate with mine. I am sure you will be punished either way. I couldn't help but tease this nervous servant that accepted my bribe easily after I complimented him a little. As for the servant, he felt that he made the biggest mistake in his life making a deal with this little devil, and now he's just hoping that he can make it out of this situation alive. And just like that, a nervous teenager on the verge of a mental breakdown and a smiling 5-year-old kid made their way to the room containing the Hyuga trio. The moment we entered the room, Hayashi's facial expression kept changing from shock to despair to anger. As for Hinata, her hopeful face dimmed again after seeing that it was just a kid her age. Hayashi was expecting by an Uchiha kid. The servant meant one of the two famous geniuses of the Uchiha clan, Shisui and Itachi. With their great achievements, they might truly make a miracle and save his wife, but now he can only see an unknown kid around his daughter's age smiling at him, making him angry beyond belief, so he directly activated his Byakugan and attacked the servant that caused this situation using the famous gentle fist of the Hyuga clan without even saying anything. Hinata screamed, and the servant wasn't able to react at all and simply closed his eyes and waited for the pain or death that's heading towards him depending on how merciful Hayashi is at the moment, but he only heard a thud sound. But after a few seconds he felt nothing, so he opened his eyes and he was shocked at what he saw. Hayashi was holding his right palm in shock while staring at the little kid standing guard in front of the servant. The Uchiha gave birth to another monster, and this one is even more scary than the other two, Hayashi thought. What the servant didn't see is that the moment Hayashi initiated his attack, the kid beside him strengthened his body with chakra, jumped at the fist's height and intercepted it with a spinning kick all in one motion. And suddenly a sound broke the silence that fell on the room. That's quite rude, Hyuga clan head. Is this how you treat a guest that came to help your wife? The black-haired kid spoke. This time, Hayashi was shocked since he didn't think that a kid can withstand his attack even if it's not at full power, so he began to take the kid in front of him seriously and regained his calm and felt that this abnormally strong kid might really have a way to heal his wife, so he asked doubtfully, "I am sorry for my earlier behavior, but do you really have a way to heal my wife?" Hearing the question, Hinata looked at the kid in front of her hopefully, and she heard him say, "I have an idea about your wife's illness, but I have to check on it personally to confirm my theory." Hayashi was disappointed a little, but he understood that what the kid said is logical. Unless he can see the future, it's impossible for him to know without diagnosing her first, so he gestured for him, "Please go ahead and check." I nodded at him and said to the servant with a smile, "You should leave for now," and Hayashi too nodded at him and he ran away again while sending me a grateful look. Inside I was thinking, sigh, even when I strengthened my body with chakra, I could barely repel him. Fighting someone like Hayashi head-on is impossible for the current me, but that's just for a head-on confrontation. I quickly stood beside the sleeping Himawari and I could see her complexion was very pale, as if there's no blood circulating inside of her. I activated my 3-tomo Sharingan, which shocked Hayashi, and I looked at him. "This is a secret," before I turned away to my patient. While Hinata looked at my eyes curiously. Hayashi felt a chill running down his spine, not from seeing the Sharingan, but from feeling something else, just like the time when he felt his brother's killing intent. This time he felt a dark emptiness radiating from the kid like a dark shadow ready to swallow him whole, so he simply nodded. Even though the Byakugan and the Sharingan are different dojutsu, they still have some similar abilities. One of them is seeing the chakra pathways. The Byakugan is way better at this since it gives a clearer vision, but gotta work with what you have. Himawari's body didn't seem to have any internal injuries, and the same with her chakra pathways, but what's weird is her body wasn't generating chakra anymore, and it seems like, if her final reserves are over, she's going to die. So I asked Hayashi, did something happen for her body to not generate chakra? Hayashi shook his head and said with a sad face, "No, Himawari's body was weak from the time she was a kid and always lacked in vitality, and one of the best medical men that we brought said that bearing children caused her to exhaust her last reserves of vitality, which in turn caused her physical energy to weaken, and now she can't achieve a balance between physical and spiritual energies to produce chakra." I started thinking vitality is truly a problem to restore since it's basically a person's life essence. Well, they can probably heal her if they transplant Hashirama's cells into her since they contain a huge amount of vitality, but good luck getting those from Danzo. As I was deep in thought, a shy voice suddenly distracted me and I felt something hold my shirt. As I looked at this crying little girl with my eyes back to normal, she said, "Are you going to save mommy?" I gave her a reassuring smile and patted her head. "Don't worry, I will save your mother, but I need to focus now." Hinata nodded her head cutely with a red face. Being a medical nin is to know how to stimulate the natural regenerative ability of the body by using healing chakra, but that consumes vitality, so using healing chakra on this woman is pointless, and what's needed to save her is direct life force transferring or to inject her with a chakra full of vitality, and just this won't be enough. For the second method to work, you first need a chakra full of vitality, and second you need to help transform it back to physical energy inside of the patient's body and help her reach a balance. So add too much and she will explode, add too little and you will cause the foreign energy that's not assimilated to be rejected and cause a bad reaction inside her weakened body, causing her death. And this is the reason why no one wants to take the risk, since if you mess up and kill the Hyuga's head's wife, you better say goodbye to your life. But that's only for normal people to worry about, I thought as I quickly opened the system panel and made a new save point with the name I am not a doctor. Chapter 22, Pain and Awakening. After preparing a save just in case I mess up what I want to do, I faced Hayashi and said, "I can only think of 2 ways that can save her. Do you want to know them?" Hayashi and Hinata both looked excited that there's a way to save Himawari, but I quickly killed their hopes and said, "First listen to what I'm going to say before you get your hopes up." "You are right, please tell us what solution you came up with," said Hayashi with a frown. "The first way is to transfer someone's life force directly to her, but to do that you need a special jutsu which I don't have, and I don't think our whole village have." Hearing what I said, Hayashi's frown deepened, but he waited for me to explain the second way. "The second way, I am sure another medical nin already proposed it to you. It's to inject her with chakra that has the properties to increase vitality and help her restore the balance between her physical and spiritual energies. Of course, the problem here is the rarity of such chakra and the huge requirement for chakra control, since any mistakes will cause the patient's death." Hearing my second solution looked helpless and said, "Indeed, one of the medical nin proposed it and explained its danger, but we couldn't even attempt it because we couldn't find someone with this kind of chakra that can restore vitality." Hinata looked sad when she heard our conversation and her eyes started tearing up again until she heard my next words. "Well, I just happen to have this kind of chakra, but the problem is I don't have enough control and experience as a medical nin, so I can't promise you anything." Hayashi looked at me with doubt, but hidden inside his eyes was pure excitement. "Do you really have such chakra?" Different from him, Hinata looked purely excited and seemed to believe me, so I decided to make a quick demonstration. "Give me your hand," I said as I took out a kunai. Hayashi quickly understood what I want to do, so he rolled up his sleeve and extended his hand, and I used the kunai to make a small cut to the horror of Hinata, but soon it was gone when I extended my hand and red chakra came out of it just enough to cover the cut, and it quickly healed without leaving a single scar. Hayashi was delighted because he understood I didn't use any medical ninjutsu that stimulates the natural regeneration process of the body, and he even felt revitalized after that chakra entered his body. Amazing, with this chakra, we might really save Himawari. Well, of course, idiot, if the Nine-Tails chakra doesn't work, nothing will, I thought. I got this chakra from Kurama, and Minato and Kushina helped seal it inside of my clone just for this purpose. "So do you want to take the risk or not?" I said. Hayashi wasn't sure on what to do since the risk is too big, but a voice soon dispelled his hesitation. "Please save mommy." It was Hinata's voice. Looking at his daughter and knowing that his wife will only die if this continues, he said, "We are willing to take the risk. Please save my wife," as he bowed his head a little. I nodded at him and said, "I will do my best, but you should understand nothing is for free." He nodded back at me and said, "The Hyuga clan will make sure to repay the favor if you save her. It's good since you promised to involve all of your clan, because you alone are worthless to me," I thought, but outwardly I only said, "Good, I will trust your words." I focused my attention back on the sleeping Himawari and activated my Sharingan again to check the situation of her chakra, and I could barely see anything because of how little there's left. I put my hand on her abdomen and started channeling a very small quantity of Kurama's chakra inside of her, and once I made contact with where her spiritual and physical energies connect, I started transforming it into physical energy and tried to merge it with what remained inside of her. But what I didn't expect is for the previously calm spiritual energy inside of her to rush at the energy I was controlling, but because the difference in ratios was so big, the foreign energy was instead pushed away, causing Himawari's body to start shaking. Seeing that the situation was going bad, I did my best to inject more chakra and regain the control I lost on the first one I injected, but this time I made a terrible mistake as I put too much, causing her shrank chakra channels to directly overload, and with a strong shake they exploded, causing Himawari to die. Mommy! Himawari! Two shrill voices filled with despair were heard at the same time. I stood there lost in the moment because, intended or not, I killed this woman, a woman that did me no harm. I expected this to happen, and I thought that knowing I can go back in time will make it easier for me to accept it, but looking at the desperation in Hayashi's eyes and the look in Hinata's eyes, it suddenly brought back some old memories I wanted to forget. It was the look of seeing your whole world collapsing, and I remember that day too when I lost everything, including my heart, the day both my parents were killed in front of me when I was just a kid and I couldn't do anything but hide. Looking at the current situation and seeing my younger self in Hinata's eye caused me to reveal that terrible memory, a memory I could never forget. As I was lost in those memories, Hayashi in his anger and sadness jumped at me, my clone, and hit my clone with a strong palm strike not intended to kill, but it was enough to dispel my clone. I received the memories and experience of this clone, and without me realizing it, the tomos of my Sharingan started to slowly transform into the shape of a triquetra, picture in the chapter's comment. That terrible pain I felt caused me to awaken my Mangekyo Sharingan, and I instinctively understood the new abilities I got from it, abilities really fitting for me ironically. At least something good came out of all of this, I thought, as my eyes reverted back to normal, and I thought back at how the devastated Hayashi looked at me with anger, causing me to feel a deep guilt. I slowly calmed myself down again and started remembering the process I went through and the mistakes I made while noting everything that happened, so next time I won't fail so miserably. Back at the Hyuga house, Hayashi kept grieving in sadness and anger at the kid that toyed with him with a clone, but it was his decision to try this, so he kept blaming himself even more. While Hinata simply cried non-stop while hugging her mother. After I finished sorting out my experience, I thought the pain I feel in my heart is bad enough. I don't want to be a source of pain for others too, as I made a promise to myself to be more careful in the future. Feeling it was time, I opened the systems panel and chose to load to the save point with the name I didn't find funny anymore. I am not a doctor, and knowing that I was back in time I felt at ease again, but now with different eyes. Chapter 23, Saving Himawari and Meddling in the Mission. Once the darkness faded away, I started seeing the situation in the room clearly again, and I sighed in relief, causing Hayashi and Hinata to look at me in surprise, because just an instant before I was saying I wanted to focus, and now I was sighing as if a huge burden was leaving my shoulders. I ignored the looks they gave me and I started explaining again the ways I figured out to save her life, and Hayashi agreed again in the end after hearing Hinata, so I turned my focus on the sleeping Himawari. Now, knowing how hard it is to both control the chakra and transform it to physical energy and then helping merge with her current physical and spiritual energy, I came with a simple but perfect solution. If 2 hands aren't enough, use 4, and if that's still not enough, use 6, I thought, and that's what I did. As I quickly did a plus hand sing and used the shadow clone jutsu to make 2 more clones to the shock of both Hayashi and Hinata, but they didn't say anything when they saw the focused look on all of the clones. I quickly pointed at one of the clones and said, "You will be responsible for transforming chakra into physical energy." Then I pointed at the second clone, "You will be responsible for injecting chakra and I will deal with manipulating the rest. Stay in sync with me and help if needed." They both nodded and all 3 activated Sharingan and put their hands on Himawari's abdomen before the first one started injecting Kurama's chakra at my signal. The second clone quickly started transforming it into physical energy, and because this time we injected the right amount, we weren't overwhelmed by the spiritual energy, nor was it too much to overload her shrunk chakra vessels. I tried my best to keep both energies balanced, and before long chakra started being generated again, this time chakra that contained some vitality, and it slowly started being absorbed by Himawari's body, restoring some of her lost vitality, and before long her pale complexion began to gain some color on it. Seeing that her body was functioning properly, I stopped helping in keeping the balance since her body can do it automatically again, and I dispelled my clones. I turned to Hinata and Hayashi and smiled. It worked. Great. Amazing. They both said, with faces full of happiness and excitement as they rushed to Himawari's side and looked at her rosy complexion. "Thank you so much. I really don't know how to repay you," Hayashi said with a grateful look. "Thank you, Nii-chan," Hinata said with a happy and shy look. "You are welcome, but this only helps her for a while. It's still a long way to cure her completely, so make sure she doesn't have any more kids until then," I said as I gave Hayashi a weird look. Of course we will make sure of that, responded Hayashi seriously to hide his embarrassment. Well, she should wake up soon and I still have some things to do. Let's have a proper talk later, I said, intending to leave them some privacy. Thank you, I will send for someone to contact you, said Hayashi, accepting my offer since he really wanted to have some time with his wife and daughters after all this pain he's been through. Leaving the Hyuga clan, I couldn't help but think family. As my thoughts drifted to the family I left behind before this clone also dispelled, bringing with it all its memories to the real body. Next day I went to ask Fugaku about Shisui since I was worried that Danzo might act recklessly, but I was surprised at what he said. He's not in the village. Itachi asked him for help to complete a mission. So it's finally here, I thought as I started remembering something I read about in Itachi's life story, but I asked to confirm it. Oh, Itachi can't complete something with his current power? After all, Itachi was already at Jonin level at this age. Fugaku nodded. According to what I know, it's an S-rank mission given by Danzo, but I don't know the details. I see, I am sure those two together will be fine as long as they are not fighting a Kage-level ninja, I said to reassure him. I hope so, Fugaku sighed as he knows he can't keep holding his son's hand forever. I am going to train with Naruto and Sasuke for a while, call me if they come back, I said. Sure, he responded, and I quickly flickered away while sending a clone to go with Sasuke and Naruto while my real body quickly arrived at a blind spot I always used to leave the village, and for the first time I left the village with my real body. If I am not wrong, Itachi was sent to assassinate Mukai Kohinada, a man who was previously an Anbu. But after one of his kids got ill, he started working as a double agent and leaked a lot of top secret information to the village hidden in the mist, Kiri, for money to help treat his kid's illness. Eventually Danzo somehow found out and sent Itachi to eliminate him as a test, and he was allowed to choose only one helper, and Itachi chose Shisui. In the original story, once they find Mukai's meeting with Kirinin, they quickly dealt with those ninja, but when it came to fighting Mukai, both Shisui and Itachi were outclassed and he simply manhandled them with his superior taijutsu skill, losing only because he didn't expect Shisui's terrifying Mangekyo Sharingan, causing him to fall under possibly the strongest genjutsu Koto Amatsukami dash. Because Mukai left a trigger in his body to commit suicide if he falls under a genjutsu, he ended up killing himself before Shisui could completely control him with his ability. Once I sorted all the information I have on the man, I used my strong senses to track Itachi's smell and traces, and I quickly started following them. I need to hurry up, otherwise I won't arrive in time, I thought as I sped up as much as possible. 3 hours later. As I was jumping from tree to tree, I finally heard some fighting sounds and I quickly went in that direction and was just in time to see Mukai immobilizing Itachi using the Hyuga's gentle fist jutsu, and Shisui was rushing from behind Mukai to save Itachi. Just in time, I thought, as just moments after this in the original Mukai will grab Shisui by the neck and strangle him, and Shisui would retaliate with his Mangekyo Sharingan's ability, Koto Amatsukami. As Mukai was about to catch Shisui, I quickly started using hand seals and sent a great fireball jutsu at him, which he split with his high mastery of gentle fist, but it was only for a distraction for Shisui to retreat as I landed beside the immobilized Itachi and picked him up. Itachi was shocked by my presence, and Shisui was the same, because even though we never met before, he still knew of me from Itachi. Yo Itachi, I never thought I will see you like this, I said to the shocked Itachi with a grin while carrying him on my back. Mukai looked at this weird development with a frown and felt he really needs a cigarette and drink to help go through this day. Chapter 24, Needed Talk. Itachi finally regained his calm, but before he could say anything, Mukai started speaking in annoyance. What's a kid doing here now? Before I replied, I went to Shisui and gave him Itachi while saying don't use that for now, causing Shisui's eyes to shrink, and Itachi didn't miss this change. After I finished with this, I looked at Mukai and approached him with a smile. Hi Mukai, I heard a lot about you. Mukai looked at this kid that doesn't seem afraid of him, and it reminded him of his little kids that he knows he can't meet anymore, making him sigh, and said, Kid, are you trying to buy time for Itachi to recover? Oh, what a careful man, I thought as I looked at Shisui trying to help Itachi recover quickly from his chakra pathways getting blocked, and I simply shook my head. No. Today you were destined to die, and you should understand, with your family in Konoha, they will definitely be used against you mercilessly with someone like Danzo there, even if you survived Itachi and Shisui's assassination. Mukai took out a cigarette, put it on his mouth, and lit it up. As he exhaled the smoke, he sighed while thinking about his situation. This kid doesn't seem to be lying, so if he's not trying to buy time, that means what he said to that kid Shursui about not using it is probably true and my life was in danger, and from the surprise they both showed it seems he's specifically here for me and doesn't seem to be worried about these two, sigh. Mukai quickly finished his thoughts with another sigh and said, so what do you want from me? Relax, I am here to help you, I said, and someone quickly interjected. Bakorio, do you understand what you are doing? Helping a traitor is the same as betraying the village, Itachi said. I looked at him the same you would look at an idiot, a look very unfamiliar to him since he's always considered a genius. I heard a lot from your father, but seeing the real thing is really amusing. Shursui simply kept looking at me warily after I revealed his secret, and Itachi said, were you sent here by father? Stop trying to gather information, and for your knowledge you said Mukai was a traitor and need to be killed, right? Yes, he's endangering the world and the information he leaked might cause a new war, Itachi replied seriously. I see, this is what Danzo told you, right, I said. Itachi's eyes flickered a little before he nodded. Let me then explain to your stupid mind how the reality of this corrupted village works. Want to hear it, or do you want to stick to your close-minded view? I said to him with a cold look, a look reminding him of his father's eyes, making Itachi irritated, but this time Shursui was the one that replied. If what you are going to say doesn't convince us, we will have to report you to the village, he said calmly while ready at any moment to use his Mangekyo Sharingan. This is a question to both of you and I hope you don't answer it naively. As a member of Umbu and knowing how strong some of the members are like Mukai, why do you think Orochimaru can escape from the village after he was caught doing human experiments using kidnapped people from the village, I said with a smile. They both pondered for a bit and Itachi, remembering Orochimaru's cunning gaze, said Orochimaru probably prepared an escape route beforehand, and Shursui nodded in agreement and I couldn't help but laugh out loud. I turned to Mukai observing us and said, Mukai, you wouldn't mind leaking more secrets, right? He looked at me with a bottle of wine now in his hand and said, what do you want? You were trusted a lot by Hiruzen, so you should know what happened. Please tell these two idiots what happened the day of Orochimaru's escape, I said with a grin, and we all waited for his answer. Well, it's quite simple. He fought the Hokage and lost, but because he was his student he couldn't punish him and let him leave in the end, although with some injuries, said Mukai indifferently and took a swig from his wine. Both Itachi and Shursui couldn't bring themselves to believe this because human experimentation with one's fellow villagers is one of, if not the most heinous crimes anyone can commit. They struggled to believe the Hokage can act like this and allow someone like this to leave just because he's his student, but I said with a shrug, it's the truth. He acts this way with all his students and friends, the same way no one punished Tsunade for not coming to help the village during the Nine Tails incident, or for all the terrible things Danzo did. Because they were close to him no one punished them, although Tsunade and the Senju clan were terribly wronged by the village and she barely earned this privilege after she lost everything. This is the reality. What's your answer? You two love peace and you want to bring peace so badly even at the price of ignoring the humiliation and the struggle your clan is going through, I said coldly at both of them. These are just the words of a traitor and a kid with unknown motives. We have no reason to believe what you say, Shursui said, trying to convince himself while Itachi was struggling to settle the raging feelings in his heart. Was I only foolishly dreaming for peace? Itachi thought, and this idea kept burning in his heart. Stop being in denial, Shursui. This world isn't just rainbows and sunshine, and Itachi, I can see that you are questioning your belief, right? Itachi looked at me shocked that I can see through him. How did you dash? I cut him off. Yes, I can see through you quite easily. Your dream for peace isn't wrong. I actually like it. What I don't like is the way you are trying to do it. Itachi said with doubt, what do you mean? I sighed and approached Mukai, causing him to raise his vigilance, but I simply extended my hand for his jug of wine, which he retrieved away and said seriously, no drinking for kids. Itachi and Shursui looked at my interaction with their deadly enemy speechlessly. TCH, anyways, Itachi, you should understand that everything comes with a price, and the price tag for peace is very high. You turn a blind eye at the mistreatment the clan is suffering because you want peace, and you even started hating your father because he started getting fed up with this situation and might start fighting back soon. Unfortunately, what you don't understand is even if the Uchiha clan doesn't retaliate at all, those elders ruling the village won't leave it alone, and sooner or later will find a way to antagonize us more. I explained to him as clear as possible. But if the situation continue like this, peace will be broken and many lives will be lost, Itachi said with anguish in his voice, remembering a scene from his childhood when his father took him to the battlefield with piles of dead bodies everywhere during the Third Great Ninja War. Chapter 25, Recruiting Mukai. Itachi couldn't help but remember the reason he yearned for peace. The day his father took him to the battlefield of the Third Great Ninja War when he was 4 years old and he tried to help an injured ninja from the Hidden Stone Village, IWA, but what awaited him wasn't appreciation like he expected, rather that ninja attempted to kill him and was only saved thanks to Fugaku keeping an eye on him. From that day on, Itachi had a very strong desire to bring peace so that cruel scene doesn't repeat itself. Yes, the peace might be broken, but the one who needs to pay the price to regain it is the perpetrator, not the victim, and in this case the Uchiha clan is the victim and they do not deserve to be sacrificed because of someone else's whims, I said this time with killing intent radiating from me. Go back and rethink what you are doing and don't worry about the clan since I made a new plan with Fugaku to try solving it peacefully. Ask him for the details. Itachi looked surprised at this since he knew it was hard to change his father's mind. Yes, it's true, go back now, I have something to talk about with Mukai and just say you failed to kill him, I said again before he could reply. And so they both nodded at me and Shursui said we will talk again at the clan's shrine before he gave one last look at Mukai and left with the still not recovered Itachi. I sighed at how foolish these. Mukai, you were going to let them leave like this without doing anything? Mukai drank a mouthful of wine and said indifferently, the question you need to worry about is if you will leave alive like them or not. I chuckled at him, of course I will leave in one piece. Oh, what makes you so sure? Mukai said as his left eye quickly turned colorless and the veins tightened and emerged from under his face. It was the Byakugan of the Hyuga clan. Mukai Kohinada, a member from a family that split off from the Hyuga clan several generations ago, who would have thought you would still gain the Byakugan with your diluted bloodline, I said, unbothered by his useless attempt at intimidating me before I continued saying with confidence, as for why you can't kill me, I have deal you can't deny. Seeing that the kid in front of him wasn't intimidated at all by his aura, Mukai sighed while deactivated his Byakugan and said, I am all ears, but if I don't like it you should hope your parents won't miss you since you won't be going back. For some reason I remembered my real parents again making me sigh. Don't worry, they won't, I said, and Mukai seemed surprised at this response and understood its meaning quickly but didn't say anything and waited for me to continue. I want you to work for me. In exchange I will make sure nothing happens to your family back in Konoha, including your ill kid, I said seriously. Mukai lost his indifferent expression with his family mentioned because he was really worried about what would happen to them. And how can I believe you can do this? After all, you yourself said that Danzo might use them to draw me into a trap. The same way I can't be sure that you won't betray me. It's a gamble we are both taking and I have already paid a lot in it by exposing myself to Itachi and Shursui, so make your choice, I said indifferently. Mukai fell deep in thought, but no matter how he thinks about it, this is the only chance he has on protecting his family and ensuring his son's survival. Thinking about his son, he couldn't help but see his image in his head struggling in the hospital with no one to pay the bills for the expensive medicine, and it made his heart ache. I betrayed Konoha for my son. Following this kid is nothing if I can save my family, Mukai thought and made his decision. I accept, but I want a guarantee that you will keep your promise, said seriously. I shook my head and said I can't give you a guarantee, especially since for now I want you to do some work outside the village, but you can send a clone to check on them whenever you want as long as it doesn't affect your performance. Fine, but if something happens to them you will be my first target, said Mukai with a terrifying glint in his eyes. Don't worry, I won't break a promise lightly. Now for what I want you to do. First, I want you to find Tsunade Senju. This might even benefit you since she might be capable of curing your son. Second, I want you to make contact with the Sakagami merchant group, I said. Mukai was glad about the first mission since it was one of his goals, but previously he didn't have time between his duties and working as a double agent, so he couldn't go search for her. As for the second mission he was doubtful, and so he asked, aren't the Sakagami merchant group close to your Uchiha clan? Why do you want to make contact with them like this? I looked at him coldly. You don't need to know the reason, just escort my clone and he will deal with everything. Mukai replied okay and didn't ask more. As a professional he knows not to delve too deep in things and just execute. Take this device and use it to contact me if you need anything and I will do the same, I said, and gave him a device in the shape of an earring made recently by a collaboration between me, Minato, and Kushina. This device was filled with seals and works as a two-way radio. I asked Minato and Kushina to help me make it after I explained to them how frequencies work. The hardest part was to replicate the effect of modulating and demodulating frequencies so they can be sent to long distances, but we were capable of achieving it in the end. We also built devices that work as signal transmitters to widen the range of the communication, and I will leave them to the clone that's going to accompany Mukai to plant them in various hidden places along their travels to build a huge network. Mukai inspected the device for a while for any hidden traps since he still doesn't trust me before he tested it. It was simple to use, just pour chakra into it while saying what you want to say, and so he said, "Does this really works?" At the same time, another similar device I was holding started shaking, and after I injected some chakra into it, Mukai's voice came out slightly different, but still clearly audible. "Does this really works?" Mukai couldn't keep his amazement from showing, since if he had this device he wouldn't need to meet with those Kirinin to relay information, and it would be possible that Konoha will never know about his betrayal. I broke him out of his daze by summoning a shadow clone, already knowing what his mission is, so he nodded at Mukai and started leaving with him while I thought about the long 3H trip waiting for me back home. "Let's see if you pass this test, Itachi. Will you betray the little trust one put on you, or will you keep what happened today a secret?" "The way I deal with you will depend on this," I thought. That's right, this is a test to see if it's worth it to invest in Itachi or not. Having a talented person is good, but if he's going to be your enemy, it's better to deal with him before he grows any stronger. Hopefully you and Shursui will use your heads correctly this time and stop acting childish, I thought as I quickly traveled back to Konoha.